morning. It's Friday the 10th of March, and greetings to you from a snow-free corner of Northumberland. We seem to have missed out on the snowfalls that have affected so many of you. Keep safe and have safe travelling if you have to travel. Today we look at Matthew chapter 21, the end of the chapter, verses 33 through to verses 45. And it's one of those stories that Jesus told towards the end of his ministry that seemed to be a direct attack on the religious authorities. He talks about the vineyard created by the landowner God and put into the trust of tenants who represent the religious authorities. And these tenants turn their back upon the people who come from the landlord, turn their back on the prophets, turn their back on those who follow God. And finally he sends his son and they kill him. Jesus is clearly here setting out the path that he believes that the Jewish religious leaders have turned their back on God, have turned their back on the ways of God, have turned their back on the laws of God. They've gone their own way and created a system and a society in which God's message of love and reconciliation and mercy and forgiveness and peace has been lost. It's a salutary lesson for religious leaders like me. Do we stick to the centre of the gospel? That gospel message that we find in the Sermon on the Mount, that gospel message we find on Maundy Thursday as Jesus washes the feet of his disciples and celebrates the Eucharist with them. But it's a message for every society, for every government. There is always a danger that those in authority and power turn their backs on the people, fail to understand the needs and necessities of the people, fail to understand the suffering of the people, and turn their backs on the way forward to serve the people and become self-serving. So for all people in power, of whatever political complexion, and for those people in authority, Jesus has a message. Keep your eyes on your purpose. The purpose of the tenants was to work the vineyard, to get a living from the vineyard, and to render unto God, the landowner, what was due to him. And they turned their backs on that. We must always be careful that we do not turn our backs upon the ways of God and the graciousness of God, that we do not go down that path, that we stay open to God's presence in our world and in our lives. The attacks in Ukraine were less yesterday, and for that we give thanks. We know that there are people in Iran and Afghanistan and the Holy Land and in many other places who are suffering. And we hold them before God and pray for their safety and pray that they may find refuge. And we pray that we ourselves may never turn our backs upon the ways of the Lord, but instead we may follow as faithful disciples. May God bless us all.